We acknowledge the traditional custodians and first storytellers, the Boomerang and Wurundjeri, upon whose unceded land this film was created. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander elders, past, present and emerging.
I did not experience menopause. Menopause experienced me.
I feel like I've entered the portal.
Didn't know what I was going through, thought I'd gone off my head.
Just cataclysmic change. That's how I can explain it.
It brings you to a state of full-on emotional upheaval.
Now I see it as a time to go within.
To me, menopause is a transition.
I see it as an initiation. I see it as the biggest initiation in a woman's life. I had a period where I felt really alone. I wasn't ready to be a menopausal woman at 43 years old. It felt terrifying to me at first. But speaking it out loud and being seen in my experience of it is what helped me to propel forward. It's what helped me to find my way.
You know, you're sad one minute, you're happy. Yeah, like, hey, all over the place. And then you got to juggle other people's lives on top of it, and you try not to bring that into, you know, because you're angry, you can't outburst with your grandkids. Sometimes they get on your nerve, but you don't want to, you know, go off on them. And sometimes if I find I'm got to be a little bit loud with them, I'll say, sorry, Nan, you know, and sort of sit down and give them a cuddle.
I felt like I would have what I'd call the snack. So I would just be doing something and then I'd go from a 0 to a 10 really quickly. So I'd be, I don't know, whatever, and something would happen and I'd just go, you know, it's like, and I'd go, ooh, it's a bit of an overreaction. Just like, so kind of like this uncontrollable energy.
I needed to understand why I was so ridiculously emotional. Like, what was going on? Because I was like, something's wrong. Like, something wrong with me? Do I need counselling? Oh, my God, am I going mad? But then I started to realise that it was actually, no, I'm going through a process. So it was about really, like, breathing and spending a lot of time just asking myself, what's going on? What do you need? Okay, my body's going through a change. What is it?
One aha moment was when I picked up our bin in the front, you know, the bins for this on the street, and I literally lifted it up and I wanted to throw it in front of my neighbour's car. And so that in itself was a bit of a wake-up call, but it was also a time where I had to go, stop, something's not right. And I remember I ended up going inside, and it's bringing up some emotion that's really nourishing, actually. I went inside. I said to my husband, you have to ride to my doctor, my Chinese doctor. You have to get these herbs for me, and I really need them. And I'm not in a position that I can even ring work, and that was a first for me. I cannot ring, and can you tell them that I need to have a day where I'm taking care of myself? And so that was a massive aha moment, because rather than judging it and saying there's something wrong with you, I just realised that it was all too much and my body was saying stop.
In my last year of perimenopause, I had my period twice within a 6-month interval. And that's when I started to get hot flashes. And that was really overwhelming for me because even though I knew I was perimenopausal, I wasn't expecting for a second that I would go into menopause. I thought, you know, this might last 5 years, even 10 years, you know, but it was sudden. And when I started to get the hot flashes, I was feeling really overcome because I didn't actually realise that that's what it was. So initially when that started happening to me, I was thinking, oh, there's something wrong. There's actually something wrong with my body.
Suddenly waking in the night to night sweats, a racing heart, then just being swept away with this kind of breathlessness. And one time, I think the first time it happened, I called an ambulance because I thought I was dying, having a heart attack or something. And they took me to hospital and they said, you've had a panic attack. So those panic attacks coincided, in my mind, with this change in my hormones. Because interestingly enough, when I went to work and I told a couple of women, they said, yes, I have those too.
I feel like I've been in perimenopause like for 8 years. It feels like it's been a really long, slow build. And even though there's this sense of knowing that I'm heading towards something like menopause, I don't think I really was grasping until I started the sharing circles, you know, this sort of being able to put a language around it or thoughts or feelings around it. It was sort of just this process of acknowledging my period every month and kind of feeling like, oh, fuck, here we go again, you know, headache, fatigue, mood, you know, just, yeah, not really acknowledging it.
I sort of started to slide into perimenopause. Of course, I'd never heard the word perimenopause. I'd heard the word menopause, the big dark thing that women go through, and become some sort of hysterical, angry, bossy, hairy person. So, yeah, who wants that? None of us. So I kind of felt like I kind of slid into it. And, you know, I was thinking that it wasn't until you're sort of in something that you go, oh, perimenopause, that's a thing. You know, because it was like periods. I remember at first I had the big bucket bleeding like all of a sudden your period's changing, you're just bleeding like a stuck pig. And it's like for 3 months, and then it's like, oh, and then bleeding every 3 weeks. And, you know, I think that, like, I now haven't bled for about 2 years, and I was thinking perimenopause was probably the worst part so far of whatever menopause is.
I am absolutely rapt about not having my period. Like, my partner says, you know, like you lose your elasticity in your body and all of that sort of stuff and things get a bit harder. I would give that up in a second. Like, I'm fine with all of that, not having my period, because every month I had to kind of face the fact that I was a woman, and not that I identify as a man, but I'm not a woman focused. Like, the last thing I want to do is collect my period blood and paint with it. It's not part of me. And I remember one of my very close friends who I love, she's a beautiful woman, runs a red tent circle. And I remember I went to support her and I just love her. So I was there and all the women were talking about, you know, the experience of this and how wonderful it was and all of that. And I just turned around and said, I actually feel really uncomfortable because I don't identify as a woman. And you're saying this is such a special woman's thing, and I don't fully get it.
Even before menopause, I never had period pains. Life just went on, and I've been really fortunate, and I'm not bragging. I've been fortunate that my body is strong, and I haven't felt. I can hear a lot of younger people suffering from period pains and cramps and all this. I'm very fortunate that I haven't experienced that. I was brought up on a small island a long time ago, before we had all of the luxuries of toilet paper and tampons and all that. And I had 4 older sisters. So them plus me and my mother, followed by 2 of my younger brothers. That was like 6 women in a household. We didn't have, we were very comfortable, but we weren't well off. We didn't have all the luxuries. And yet, all through this life, I left the island at the age of 20 to do other things. And in all that young life, I do not recall any of my sisters or myself ever acknowledging that we had periods or what we did or what we didn't do, and without the tampons and nothing.
Yeah, look, I had asked my mother about menopause before I was perimenopausal, and she said that she didn't feel any symptoms, which I thought, oh, okay, maybe I'll be lucky and I'll be like you. So she didn't describe any symptoms.
My mum said, I think the more you talk about something, then just the more you feel it. Like she was kind of happy for me, but really her perspective was, she didn't really experience it in a very strong way, or it probably didn't give it much thought or much time or much space, and sort of arguing that or stating that if I gave it too much time and too much thought, then I'll probably feel it more.
I didn't know my mum was going through it until I went home, and I just looked at it and she was like different. She's a bit more grumpy than she was and things like that. I think, gee, this is not Mum, what's going on here, And my other sister said, Mum, did you take your pill or something like that? Mum, take a pill or something like that. But I realised there was something different about it. She wasn't the quite calm mother that I was used to, that she was a little bit, yeah, and I just thought it was because of my stepfather, because he was going through like a bit of dementia and stuff like that, and Mum was sort of thing helping him, and then she couldn't cope anyway and put him in the nursing home. So I just thought that was all part of it, but it wasn't. She changed, and I can see that in her. So I did see my mum change through that.
I recall my mother speaking about stopping bleeding, and she told myself and my two sisters, my younger sister's a good 10 years younger than me, and she said it in a very hush way. It does feel like a bit of a shameful conversation to have, or maybe just not appropriate kind of thing, you know what I mean?
Before I was perimenopausal, I had an experience in a workplace where a woman that I was working with was menopausal. And it was really obvious to me that she was being shamed for her experience of menopause. And there was just this subtle joke about the fact that she was a middle-aged woman, the fact that she was menopausal.
I kind of think that's just in the zeitgeist. I think it's just infiltrated into our culture that menopause is terrible.
As I was starting to understand I was going through some sort of menopause, I had no framework at all, nothing. My mother died before she went through it, and I didn't grow up with my mum anyway, so I didn't have a lot of females around me because I grew up with my father. I didn't ever hear my grandmother go through it, so I don't know what happened there. And I honestly had never, the only thing that I'd close to seeing was somebody going through hot flushes in one of my classes. That was it. So I didn't really know anything.
I run a women's group, and I listen to their problem, and I can identify with them and try and let them know that they're going through, but there's no, I'm thinking like that, They don't know what they're going through, so it's hard to get across to them. A lot of them never had mothers. They were put in foster homes and things happened to them, They never had people to trust.
So my son is 15 and so he's going through, he's transitioning. He's a teenager. He's going from boy to young man. And I'm going from adult to elder, and there's this gap. And the gap, I reckon, is kind of probably the fires of menopause. It's all about heat and that the fires of menopause. So, you know, yeah, this has been my experience, and is that, you know, what is it to be in transition? I mean, in some ways, you could say we're always in transition, but I know this is a real intensification of that. And I think one of the most useful things was when my counsellor said that menopause is, and I might have said this another time actually, but that menopause is this big clearing. Anything you haven't dealt with earlier in your life is going to come up. And I found that really, really useful, whether it's true or not. And it's just about feeling it in your body, not thinking it, not going back, but just kind of letting that energy be there.
I just don't want to have headaches anymore, and I don't want to feel tired, and I don't want to have shit night sleeps, and I don't want to be woken up with hot flushes. I just want to feel like my exuberant youthful self. And I'm really hoping these little pills will make me feel great. But, you know, time will tell, and I'll get back to you. Yeah, so, you know, I'm giving it a crack.
Well, I went to the doctor and I just busted out crying. And then she just said, you know, this and that. I said, yeah, I am. So she put me on like a medication just to help me with it like that. Yeah, because like I said, it affects you mentally too. Like, you know, you always think you're in control, and then you get all these other, and it's like you just, sometimes like days you can't cope. And then you feel like you just want to run to the edge of the earth, you know, turn your phone off, don't want to talk to anyone. And you just feel like that. And then I think about, but what about my kids, you know, what about my grandkids? I can't do this. So it's a real struggle within yourself. And it's like, when is it me, you know? When are they going to understand me? And it's like, because I always understand them. But see, they're not aware of it either. You know what I mean? Oh, I don't realise. Mum, I didn't know you was going through that. Or Nan, I didn't know you was going through that. Yeah, so it's a real, I think they need awareness too of what Nan goes through or what Mum goes through when older in our age.
I treasure my space. And I have space. I'm, again, fortunate to have space. But I almost have 3 shared spaces where there's always, I'm not quite completely on my own. So I have to juggle that, and I have to get that right. Because I keep thinking I'm not a student anymore. I want my own space. And I'm looking forward to that.
I feel like I've entered the portal, but I've still got these physical symptoms, but I've shifted and progressed into more of a reflective and a deep desire to have space around me, time around me, quietness, self-reflection. And it feels like it's in that spaciousness where that's where the transformation is happening. That's like I'm in the cocoon or something where I'm metamorphosizing. And sometimes it's really uncomfortable in there, physically uncomfortable. But sometimes it's incredibly delightful. And yeah, that spaciousness, that stillness, that cocoon allows me is just quite luxurious. It's quite blissful in a way. So there is this dichotomy of discomfort with this blissfulness of spaciousness that I think that's where that allows the transformation to where I'm going. I don't quite know where I'm going yet, but I feel like I'm in the portal. And I'm just trusting, actually. I'm just trusting that I'll get to the other side.
Yeah, I'm rediscovering getting back in touch with my creative side, because I find I I need to be inspired, and going through that transition and coming out the other end, I'm feeling, I've come full circle in a way. I've got the time that now that my children are older to reconnect with some of my, my dreams and my creative endeavours. So I've joined a drama group and I'm in a play. I've been in several plays, and it's time to play. Play again.
I'd say that it's allowed me to actually go back to music, go back to baths in a sacred way. I think if anything, it's knowing how to move my body more, and actually slowly. I'm doing it in a very slow way, but just connecting with things that I find fun. And it's more, for me, it's the nourishing is the internal voice. It's that awareness that my internal voice is so much more gentle. And I know that's been a really important part of this journey.
To not ovulate, for me, my libido was really in keeping with my ovulation, the cycle of going, so where I actually feel just an energy, just that wonderful, look at that. Oh, I could just, I love that feeling. And I feel like I've kind of lost that because I feel like that came from just chemicals. And so I'm going, well, what's possible? How do I juice myself up? How do I get excited? How can I get excited?
I do my art and craft. I see the beauty come out in that, and I enjoy doing it.
Being able to really feel deeply, who am I and what am I beyond my physical body? I'm not a sex object. I'm not just a mother. I'm not just a partner. I am more than that. And who is that? And that was the journey for me. So that's what I would call my soul's journey. It's like the song of myself.
And I always like to think, if you have strong women, you have strong children, you have strong men, and you have strong community. And it's about identifying, hey, I'm not a misfit here, I'm not thinking, this is just something women go through. Let's get help and try and, because you're the matriarch of your family, being an Aboriginal woman. You're the matriarch, and they look to you. So if you fall apart, guess what? They scatter. So it's about empowering women, keeping together, sharing their stories and getting help for it. Like, I'm not mental. I'm not, I need help. I'm going through menopause. So, I just really hope there's more for it,
I think it's potentially a profound time of empowerment. Now I'm in it. And now that I've talked to women who are older than me or in a different place with it, or indeed postmenopausal or to the other side of the transition,
I feel good about being an older woman. I keep thinking I don't really want to be young again.